Welcome, listeners. This is another episode of the Justified Posteriors podcast. Today, we'll be continuing our conversation with Bo Cowgill, where we'll be touching on a lot of interesting topics, including epistemic apocalypse, prediction markets, where actually Bo was one of the first people to try to deploy them inside of a company. I hope you enjoy.
All right, speculation mode. All right. I have a proposal that I'm going to ask you guys to indulge me in.
Okay.
As we think about how AI will affect communication in the economy, which is that for my book club, I've been recently reading some more postmodern, now some postmodern fiction, in particular a book called The Seventh Function of Language. The book is a reference to Jacobson's 6 famous functions of language, where this is first a semiologist who's interested in how does language function in society, and he says language functions in the following 6 ways. I'm going to add 2 bonus ones to that, because of course there are 7 functions of language, not just 6, and maybe this will be a good framework for us to think about how AI will change different functions of language. Okay. All right, are you ready for me?
Yes.
Bo's ready. Yeah, Bo's ready. All right.
I hope I can remember all 6 when you ask me to go over them.
Yeah, no, we're going to do them one by one. Okay, do them one by one. Okay. The first is the referential or informational function. Okay. This is just, is the language conveying facts about the world that, or not, right? Or what are the facts about the world being contained directly, object level, first, no Straussian stuff. Just telling you a thing, right? When I think about how LLMs will do at this task, we think that LLMs at least have the potential to be more accurate, right? If we're thinking about in the context of cover letters, the LLMs should maybe do a better job at choosing which facts, how to describe them clearly. There might be an element of choosing which facts to report as being the most relevant. We can think about maybe that's in a different function. If we think about a podcast, we ask this question about how will LLM change podcasts? Well, presumably an LLM-based podcast, if the LLM was good enough, would get stuff right more often. I'm sure Andre and I occasionally make errors. That's a lie. I'm sure I make errors. Andre doesn't make errors. So restricting attention to this kind of like object level, is the language conveying the facts it needs to convey? How do you see LLMs changing communication?
Well, it sounds like you're optimistic that it'll improve. Is that right?
I think that if we're talking about hallucinations, I think that hallucinations will be increasingly fixed and be a non-issue for things like CVs and resumes in the next couple of years. Right. And then it becomes the question of like, would an LLM be less able to correctly report on commonly agreed upon facts than a human? I don't know. I guess, the couple of years out LLM, you got to figure is going to be pretty good at reliably reproducing facts that are agreed upon, right?
Yeah, I see what you mean. So I'm going to say it depends, but I'll tell you exactly what I think it depends on.
Please.
So I think in instances where the sender and the receiver are basically playing a zero-sum game, I don't think that the LLM is going to help, and arguably nothing is going to help. Maybe costly signaling could help, but
sender and the receiver are playing a zero-sum game? If I want to hire someone, that's a positive sum game, I thought.
That's true. So we're not necessarily talking
game.
Right.
Oh, two senders. Two senders. Oh, I misheard. Yes, two senders
a sender and receiver
with each other.
But we're not just talking. So this is another domain-specific answer. But I think that it depends on what game the two parties are playing. Are they trying to coordinate on something? Is it kind of a zero-sum game where they have total opposites? And if all costly signaling has been destroyed, then I don't think that the LLM is going to help overcome that total separation. On the other hand, if there's some alignment between sender and receiver, even in cheap talk world, of course, we know from that line of Crawford and Sobel-based literature that you can have communication happen even with the costless signal. And I do think that in those Crawford and Sobel games, you have these multiple equilibria ranging from the kind of the babbling equilibria to the much more precise one. And it seems like, if I'm trying to communicate with Seth costlessly, all costly signal has destroyed, we only have cheap talk, that the LLM could put us on a more communicative and more kind of
right. We could say more if we're
Right.
at the level where you trust me.
right.
The LLM
yes.
can tell you more
Right,
facts than
and
I
could
have.
get us into those more fine partitions in the cheap talk kind of literature. At least that's kind of how I think the potential for it to help would go. But then if you
Andre,
have no
want to jump
costly
in,
signaling,
or should I move?
yeah. But if you
Yeah, I
have no
want-
costly
next-
signaling and no alignment, I think that you're still kind of screwed.
I want to jump in a little bit because I'm a little bit worried for our listeners if we have to go through 8 of
They
these.
love these functions,
eight-
dude. They're gonna love. This is gonna be the highlight of the episode.
So I guess what I wanted to, I have the same list of functions, in the show notes that I guess rather than having a discussion after every single one, I think it's just good to
Let's do the whole list.
very
Okay,
briefly
there we go. All right.
enumerate them, and then we can talk about.
So
what
then
we
it'll
expect to
okay.
happen.
That'll help Bo at least. I don't know if the audience needs this. The Bo, of course, is up to the audience is up to date with all the most modern, postmodern literature. So for the sake of Bo, though, I'll give you the
Sure.
6 functions plus 2 bonus functions. Literal truth, that's the informative function. The expressive or emotive function, which is expressing something about the sender, right? So this one, I think you're going to have a lot of opinions about. This is what actually seems to break in your paper is I can't express that I'm a good worker bee if now everybody can easily express their good worker
I
bees.
see, right?
The third is the connotative or directive function. That's the rhetorical element. That's the, I'm going to figure out how to flatter you and persuade you, not necessarily on a factual level that no one else, in a way, that's the zero-sum game maybe you were just talking about. The fourth, this is funny, this is the phatic function.
Hey, wait,
This is
Seth.
the just-
Seth, you don't like being flattered? Isn't that a?
I love being flattered. Are you kidding me? It's my
I
highlight.
think
Right, yeah.
that's definitely not zero sum.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Flattery is positive sum. Good point, Andre. There's the phatic function, which is the language used to just maintain communications, right? So the way I'm thinking about this is if we're in like an automated setting, you know how they have like those pacemakers or like those like drop dead switches where it's like, if I ever die, my lawyer will send the information to, the federal government. And so like you might have a message from your heart being like, Bo's alive, Bo's alive, Bo's alive, Bo's alive. And then the problem is when the message doesn't go, right? The fifth is the metalingual or metalinguistic function. That's language to talk about language. You can tell me if you think LLMs have anything to help us with there. Then we have the poetic function. That's language as beautiful for the sake of language, right? And maybe LLMs will change how beautiful language is. And then we've got these 2 bonus functions. The first is the performative function, which is comes to us from John Searle, one of our favorite American philosophers, who talks about, I now pronounce you man and wife. That's a function of language that is different than conveying information. It's an act. And maybe LLMs can or can't do those acts. And then finally, the most important function of magic, the incantatory function, which is doing magic. You can come back to us about whether or not LLMs are capable of magic. Okay, so there's 8 functions of language for you. And now you have to do for each one.
No, Seth.
How are LLMs going to
No,
change language?
no,
All right,
no.
okay, take any of them. Take any of them, Bo. All right.
Geez, I don't really totally know where to begin.
I
What do
guess
you-
maybe
do you
can
have a
can
take
I
on it?
reframe the question maybe?
Andre, go ahead.
I think oftentimes I try to be more grounded in like what might be empirically falsifiable. So we have this we have these ideas that like in certain domains, and we can focus on the jobs one, that LMs are going to be writing a lot of the language that was previously written by humans, and presumably the human that was sending the signal. So how is that going to affect how people find jobs in the future? And like how do we think this market is going to adjust as a result? Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Feel free to take either framing.
Yeah. So I guess the reframing is about how the market as a whole will kind of adjust, right?
Yeah.
And possibly on both sides of the market.
Yes,
Too.
exactly.
Well, one, you know, we have some survey results about this in the paper, and it's you would shift towards more costly signals, maybe verifiable things like where did you go to school and did you
No, but
actually work for this company?
but that is easy, right? Like that's.
I agree. Actually, yeah.
I mean that already exists to more or less, right?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, you could start using these more, and not ask people. You start ignoring cover letters and things like this. One thing is, it's somewhat motivated by the discussion of cheap talk a minute ago. That I think that could come up is that there'd be more referral hiring. So this is something that lots of practitioners talk about: is that we can't trust the signal anymore, but I can still trust my current employees that work with this person in the past. And so this would be kind of a possible concrete way of doing this. And I think that it has a theoretical interpretation as well, which is that when all you have is cheap talk, the only communication you can have are maybe between people who are allies in some sense or who kind of share the same objective. And this would be why, you could learn or communicate through, if the person was a current employee or a friend or something like this, and you could do this, network-based referral. So I think that's something I think is super interesting, and lots of people are already talking about it, and I think it would be cool to try to have an experiment to measure.
What about work trials? Do you think that that's going to become more common? Anecdotally, I see some of the AI labs doing some of this. So if you can't trust the signals, maybe you just give.
Yeah, you have to go. Most definitely. I mean, the cheap talk idea is kind of not the only one. Definitely, you could have there are a variety of contractual kind of solutions to this problem. One that was a recent management science paper about is to actually charge people to apply, thinking that they have a private signal of whether they can actually do this or not, and if they're going to get found out, they could, they would be less likely to willing to be kind of part with this money. It's less of kind of a free lottery ticket just to apply if you're charging.
For what it's worth, I strongly think that we're going to move into the pay to apply world. To me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I think that pay to apply is super underrated. Having said that, people have been willing to, ignore more obvious good things for longer. And so I don't think it's as inevitable as it sounds like you do.
Well,
but
both
why
LinkedIn. Well, I mean, I think it's the natural solution to the extent that what the cover letter is doing is signaling your expected match quality, and you have some private information about that. I think both Indeed and LinkedIn have now premium plans with costly signals. So it's not exactly a direct pay for apply, but you pay for a subscription that gives you limited signals, which is essentially the same exact thing. So,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I think,
awesome.
Whether that solves these issues, I'm not sure. Cause I guess, it needs to be an equilibrium object to really do the deed, Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine if we think income is more if we think willingness to spend on this thing is more correlated with ability than whatever, right? It's back to the same signaling model. Bo, you were going to say something? Sorry.
Well, I mean, this solution also relies on the applicant themselves to know whether they're a good match in some sense, and some people are just deluded.
Yeah. Well, also the platform, like in advertising, the platform could vary.
Yeah.
It could be a full auction type thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
They could be a scoring auction that has its own objectives and gives people discounts. And what Seth says kind of raises this question of a very common objection for pay to apply, which is what about the people who can't afford it? And I think a high number of the people who have said that in my life work for an institution that that charges people to apply for admission. So like you could use some of the same things. You could have fee waivers, and the fee waivers might be require a little bit of effort to get, but I think a lot of schools are super generous about that. Another idea I've heard is that you could put the money in escrow, and then you could possibly give it back if it doesn't work out. Or you could actually give it back if it does work out. So yeah, people have different kind of takes on this. But I think there are various ways to harness, pay to apply, and then kind of deal with the negative aspects of it in just in other ways.
So what it seems to solve is this very narrow element of what we call the expressive function of language. So one thing I'm trying to express with my cover letter is I'm a good worker bee. I do the things. I will bring my resources to your firm. But we also want the letters to do lots of different things, like be beautiful and tell me a little bit about yourself, right? Have heterogeneous match quality elements, right? And so it seems like this money only helps with one vertical dimension of quality. Andre's shaking his head.
Seth, actually.
Okay.
Because when you're sending that costly signal and you do cater your cover letter to that employer, that is about match quality, right? It's not the costly signal, the pay to apply gives you the incentive to reveal that, information in your cover letter.
Right, it's a both. Right, it's not a payment or a cover letter. It's a both. Right, yeah. Good point.
I guess I wanted to, we've been spent a lot of time thinking about the signaling, this information apocalypse, if you will, that Bo has been calling it, or epistemic apocalypse. I think one solution to various epistemic issues has been prediction markets, and I wanted to ask Bo about his earlier life experiences with those, because it's it's a very hot topic now, with a lot of prediction markets gaining traction, and it's just an interesting topic.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we should get back to the GI information apocalypse as well, and do we think it's going to happen? But so yeah, it's true that that kind of some of my first papers out of grad school were about prediction markets, and in my former life, I worked at Google, where at one time people had 20% projects. I think they might have gone away a little bit, but in an earlier era, I started an internal prediction market. At the time, it was the largest kind of internal prediction market known to exist, and there were, I think, around 400 or so different markets that we had that were all offering the employees the ability to anonymously bet on different kind of corporate performance measures. And the most two common ones were, what will the demand for our products be? How many new advertisers will we get? How many new Gmail signups or 7-day active users in various countries and things like this? And then also project launch deadlines. Basically, would it be on time, or early or late? Not very often early, but sometimes on time. I had a paper about this in Review of Economic Studies. It showed, like in many other cases, the markets perform really well, both in absolute terms and relative to like other forecasters at Google. And we eventually got kind of other data and other companies' data to try to do similar things that had run prediction markets as well. I think one interesting thing is that prediction markets have gotten really big externally for things like elections, but you still don't see a lot of companies seemingly use it to guide decision making. And I have some hypotheses about that. But what do you think? I mean, you think this is a good kind of summary of what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I want to hear your kind of best explanation for why you think the internal prediction markets haven't taken off.
I mean, there are lots of reasons. So I don't want to say there's just one. I mean, our prediction market at Google was really built around having a proof of concept that we can then use to launch our own Kalshi, or our own Poly market or thing like that. And I think it was a little bit too soon for that. So part of the reason our case is like, we weren't really trying to make it as good of a decision-making tool as possible. Like we wanted to go public and have the election markets be hosted by Google. And it's an interesting counterfactual world to think about if we had been able to do that. There were some regulatory barriers, I think, that Kalshi eventually were able to get past. The part of the problem I've been working on recently is that that the prediction market paradigm inside of a company kind of assumes that all the workers have some information about like what plan of action will be best according to some definition of best, but they otherwise just have no preference about what you do with this information. And so should we launch a new product? Well, the employees all I think the paradigm assumes that they all know something about whether it's going to be a successful product, but they sort of don't care whether you do it or not. But like, obviously they care, and some of the people with the best information about this new product could have a very strong preference. I heard about this situation in Southeast Asia, where, the person with the best information on the new product would also probably have their career sabotaged if they launched a competing product. So like, that could kind of interfere with the incentive compatibility of the market.
The incentives aren't high-powered enough.
Well, that's true. And it's hard to think about how the incentives would ever be high-powered enough to kind of offset this unless the company proactively designs the market differently. And I think there are possible ways to kind of design the market differently to deal with these conflict of interests. But I think I cut you off, either Andre or Seth.
No, well, I mean, I want to follow up with Andre's question, which is, okay, but this seems like a really good way to accumulate information, and like maybe AI will help us do these better. So maybe is there really an epistemic apocalypse, or will prediction markets plus AI predictors save us all?
It's possible that prediction markets will kind of help in this way, just by making the information I mean, it's essentially a form of a contract. And when we talked about various contracts, including pay for apply, and maybe, you do a trial period at a job, all these are kind of contractual ways of making it costly to lie.
Right.
And so, I mean, that could possibly discipline this sort of thing, most definitely. One reason I think that the epistemic apocalypse is something like this is kind of going to happen is for cases where there's an information bottleneck, I think that the economy is going to find a way to get the information it needs so that you can hire someone for a valuable role, or figure out if the product is actually good or not. Like there's lots of reason that sellers and buyers both want to coordinate on information, and that the information, will probably find a way to get
it's positive sum.
Right. Yeah. So that would be one reason I think in a lot of cases the bottlenecks the informational bottlenecks will be closed, even if you don't have as good of positive, costly signaling as you used to. But number one, like, we could just have to tolerate a lot of mistakes, and that already happens in the hiring, setting where it's like super hard to find. And so we could just, it's possible that we could have to tolerate even more hiring mistakes because now the signal is actually work, and it's, we don't have an apocalypse because it's not like the economy.
But Bo, why are we hiring anyone? I thought all the jobs.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I think there will be still human jobs.
Well, maybe it'll be a Coasian singularities where we're all one-man firms, so there's no one. So.
Exactly. I mean, what is the Coasian singularity, right? It's the zero bargaining frictions, and one of the bargaining frictions is information asymmetry.
Sure. Yeah.
Bo, can I ask you a question here? Would it be fair to say then that you're kind of more optimistic about convergence in sort of like public, big question information, the kinds of stuff that prediction markets are good at scale, but you're more pessimistic about, Seth trying to send in a message to stranger number 3? Is that the distinction here?
No, but that actually I think is a good distinction as well. So, I mean, the prediction markets I think are generally better at forecasts when there's lots of information that's kind of being dispersed around lots of different kind of actors or agents, and the market kind of aggregates this up. And so,
right, and theoretically, a high quality LLM that has a budget to do training, you know, or a couple years down the line, will be a super forecaster and will be conveying and aggregating this information, right?
that's true. I mean, we think about agents participating in prediction markets. A bunch of the theory assumes that everyone receives, some independent signal or a signal with some independent noise. And insofar as everyone's agent derives from the same, 3 or 4 big labs, then they might not actually be all that independent. And that would be a reason to not think that, the markets will possibly save us. Now, you could say the same.
Only if they're not independent because they're wrong.
Well, no. I mean, the other thing is, like, even if the foundation models are the same, they may be going out to acquire different pieces of information, right? So it's
that's true. You also have. That's true. I mean, you also have the temperature in the models that kind of adds some level of randomness to the responses.
But I literally mean, like, you can have, like, so you have these sci-fi novels where you have people tell the AI to go out and find information, and that's a costly acquisition process for the LLM. Maybe it'd have to interview some humans or pay for some data. I think this viewpoint that you're just like taking with an identical prompt some off-the-shelf chatbot and asking, "Hey, what's the prediction here?" is really not the right way to think about what agent-assisted, functions would be doing. And I think what I like to point to is, like, hedge funds, right? They're all using various machine learning methods to trade, but it's not like they're all doing the same thing, even though I assume that many of the algorithms they're using are in some sense, the same.
I see. So you're basically more optimistic about prediction markets and AI being like a combined thing that would help, overcome the apocalypse.
Yes.
Well, one way in which I guess I'm a little bit more pessimistic is that in the world that we're just coming from, I think there is just more reliable ambient information that you would get, just from being in the environment that at least I think you could trust. So, like, another way of summarizing what I was saying earlier is, we can contract around information asymmetries either through prediction markets or even in ways that private parties could have some sort of bilateral contract to contract around. But I think in the old world, like, you could just trust a photograph, and you could actually, trust more photographs, and possibly learn a lot just from the fact that you feel like you could trust more photographs. Now, it's true that there were a lot of staged photographs, even back in the day.
Have you seen the friends of Comrade Stalin?
Totally.
It's me.
Yeah.
So losing his friends very quickly.
Right. Yeah, but it does still feel like maybe not stuff that you can use in the media, that you would see in the media, that where there were parties that would have some incentive to doctor photos. But even just like, if your friend said that they met Tom Brady, like, they could bust out a picture and, like, show you Tom Brady, and, like, you could have more faith in that, other smaller stakes ambient things that might be a little bit more trustworthy now that could accumulate. And that's where it does seem like they're, to me, informally, not on a peer-reviewed basis, but
that's the question. So that's the question. Does all of the little small stuff add up to an apocalypse if we're all still agreeing at the big stuff from the top down?
Maybe.
What about reputation? I'm not going to show you guys doctored photos. Come on.
This is true. Well, I mean, if we're not going to interact again, then then who knows?
But
maybe you're a sock puppet. Maybe you're actually just an AI
In
right
contrast.
now.
But there's
no
a way,
to sort of
right? Like we
discipline
know, like
That's the twist, is that this was an AI podcast the entire time.
I am a robot.
That's funny.
No. I mean, right. Their reputation is not a bilateral thing only, right? You have various reputational signals that you can accumulate, and certainly for media outlets, they could form, reputations. That's kind of the point of media outlets, one would think, to some extent.
In the future, everyone's their own media outlet. Everyone's got their own Substack. Everyone could have an LLM pointed at them saying, hey, keep track if Seth and Andre ever lie or do anything bad on their podcast, right? So there's a sense in which, yes, the cost of this is the classic AI like attack defense thing, right? Yeah, it makes it easier to make fakes, but it also makes it easier to monitor fakes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, yeah, this is what I say. I think in situations where it's high stakes enough to form a contract and do monitoring and everything, that we don't necessarily get these huge amounts of information loss. But you would also get a lot of information about the world. Actually, here's a specific example, which I hope no one gets embarrassed about this, later in life. But I have a 4-year-old daughter. And
He's very cute, can confirm.
Thank you. And so there was a GAI photo of a squirrel who ate a piece of candy or something like that, and then it was GAI, but it was high quality GAI, and the squirrel has an expressive body language saying how good it is, and I would know that that's not a real squirrel, that they were trying to create a viral video, but she hasn't really experienced real squirrels yet. And so I actually think that she probably thought this and was like, oh, wow, this is something that could actually happen, that actual squirrels could do. And then now we're going to have a whole generation of people who have probably seen more fake cat videos than actual cat videos. And I just think that will accumulate, not necessarily to an apocalypse, but to some level of aggregate information loss.
It's interesting because I would think that it's not the kids who are going to be affected, but it's the adults. When I think about who are the primary spreaders of let's say there are olden folks who are very into sending mass emails to their friends with completely unverified information that people in our generation would think is
totally,
certainly, obviously not
even credible. Better. And at the end, it says, "Please share with everyone."
Yes.
Be sure to share with everyone.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I mean, one answer to that is, yes, or what? Why not both? And that would be just, if we have reasons that both sides could possibly, be more confused. One that's not used to
defense again, right? On the squirrel thing. When I grew up,
I'm afraid of the squirrels. Just to be clear,
you got to defend yourself. All right, attack defense. When I grew up, I had no idea that trees actually looked like these lollipop palm trees that they have here in Southern California. When I was reading Dr. Seuss, I thought those were made up BS, right? And then I had actually go out and
now look at the crazy stuff you believe. I mean, I was kidding.
Right.
Keep going.
No, but okay, fair enough. I guess what I'm trying to say is that as a child, I was exposed to a lot of media with talking animals, and I figured it out. And who knows, maybe your daughter will have access to LLMs, and instead of having to wait until she's 20 to find out, she can ask, "Hey, do squirrels actually like that?"
Yeah, can they gesticulate and etc. In a human-like way? Yeah, no. So it's true. What do you guys think about the idea that that the rise of fake AI and will actually create demand for crypto and for things being cryptographically signed as proof of their authenticity in some way? And this would not only possibly, be an application for, squirrel videos, but, even just is the person you're calling actually the person who, your phone says it is? So what do you think?
Yes.
Definitely timestamping.
So yeah, I mean, I think the answer is yes. I'm very interested in ideas such as proof of humanity, for example. So, various mechanisms that usually involve a crypto component to say, like, you are who you say you are. I think on a practical level, the concepts involved in crypto are just too abstract for most people. So, the success will come from essentially someone putting a very nice user interface, figuring out how to like essentially,
Sure.
package it so that people aren't actually going to be thinking about the crypto part of it.
Of course not.
Because I can't imagine the global population actually understanding crypto to a large extent. So I think that, I think that'll be important. Yeah. What do you think, Seth?
In the blocks. I mean, I definitely see a huge role for just this idea of timestamping is that this thing went on the blockchain at this date, and if we can't agree on anything else, at least we can agree on, this was the original photo of Stalin with his four friends.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big question for all of these systems is they're not that useful until lots of people are on them, right? Um, and so it's like a chicken and egg problem, like a very, very big one. And
Really? You don't think if you get like AP, if you got like the three big news
so I'm thinking about
services on
perfect
it, would that be
humanity
easier to do?
specifically.
Hmm.
So, which is
World Orb,
yeah,
Orb
orbs.
coin.
Yeah, but there are others, which I view as like in some sense, a different and a harder ask than a time stamping, which news organizations can do that themselves. I assume they're actually already doing it to some extent, and normal human beings would never check. But if there was an investigation, someone could, in principle, check.
Well, it comes up all the time in terms of like documenting like war events.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh, you said this was a bombing from yesterday, but this is
yes,
photos from 10 years ago,
yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Um,
Yeah.
and if we had some enlightened CEOs of social media companies, they might facilitate that to some extent. Doesn't Not clear that their business interests are actually well aligned with that technological
Yeah.
propagation. But I think with the proof of humanity type stuff, um, you're going to want to use it when everyone else is using it. Let's say like Meta wanted to verify that everyone on its platform was a unique human being, that there wasn't anyone with two accounts, for example. Maybe that's their rule that they had, or that the person signing up wasn't someone that they had previously kicked off for like abusing the system. If everyone has access to proof of humanity technology, then that's very feasible to do. But if only a tiny share of the population are using it, then it's not a very effective mechanism.
Well put. What do we think? One thing we haven't talked a lot about today, and I want to give us a chance to like at least address it in passing, is that it seems like the effect of LLMs on writing has a lot to do with how much LLMs will be doing reading. So we've already talked in passing about how LLMs prefer the writing of other LLMs. At least it seems in your study. I've seen this in other studies. It makes perfect sense if you prompt an LLM saying, write the best thing, it should be pretty good at it, right? Because it can just like evaluate it itself and iterate.
Mhm.
Um, to what extent is that a problem or a solution? I mean, on the one hand, if the positive vision is the LLMs are going to be able to convey extremely detailed information, and then on the other end, parse extremely detailed information in an efficient way, right? That's Andres Kosian singularity. But you might imagine that, because now only LLMs are reading, people put less effort into submitting, and that's the epistemic apocalypse, is why even try if they prefer a bullshitted GAI version.
Yeah, totally. Or like, I guess in a lot of my own prompts, sometimes I know I don't have to like describe what I'm talking about in very fine detail because I just like describe it a little bit and it knows the context of the question and kind of can do it. So I don't know.
Right, next management science paper.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, who knows? It does seem like it's potentially a problem to me, mainly because we should still care about the human to AI kind of communication pipeline, and that pipeline might actually need to go in both directions. And so, if the LLMs basically get really good at talking to each other, but lose the ability to kind of talk to normal people, then well, it seems like it's at least potentially bad for us. This is another
Right,
thing
but
you could
there's one
probably.
thing LLMs are great at, it's translating, right?
That's
That's
true.
something I'm optimistic about.
That's true. I mean, arguably, it needs to be trained and or prompted or rewarded somehow to do that. And maybe the business models of the companies could, will kind of keep those incentives aligned to actually to do this.
Well, the models are going to be scheming against each other, so they wouldn't want to tell us what they're really conspiring to do.
Yeah, that's true.
One final topic I wanted to get to, because I think you wanted to get to, was superhuman persuasion, right? So, Bo, you.
Oh, I thought we were going to do the ABC conjecture.
Oh, we'll get into that too. Yeah, we could get into that.
No. We could do both. Yeah.
Well, this is the ABC conjecture was a tangent off of this general topic.
Okay, perfect. All right, so start in the main.
Yeah.
Tell us how it comes in. All right,
sure. So, Andre, I think, had this provocative statement on, at some point that he doesn't think of persuasion as being a big part of the effects of GAI. And I was surprised by that. I do think maybe that Andre is representing a common view out there. And I think I have both narrow and broad critiques of this. And so I guess I'll start with the broad. There's a lot more discussion of the productivity effects of GAI, maybe than the persuasion effects. And I don't know if, at some level, without persuasion, if we're measuring productivity with prices, how persuasion ultimately, I think, is some part of productivity if we're measuring productivity in some sort of price weighted way, because two companies could have the same exact technology, one with a bad sales force, and it might code this up as one of them being a zero productivity company.
Yeah, but how much is that a zero sum, right? I mean, I guess the idea there would be is that, sure, if Coke spends more on advertising, we'll sell more Coke and less Pepsi. But is that positive sum GDP, or would we just moved around the deck chairs?
So that's true. In order to get the positive sum, I think you would still need to persuade someone that this is worth buying. Andre's a marketing professor.
Pepsi, no. You can make Pepsi shitty. You can be like, don't drink Pepsi. It's shit. Sorry for the language.
Wait, is that not persuasion too?
No, but it's negative. But it's negative sum. It's negative GDP.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just wanted to very.
Defend your claim.
I don't even want to defend it. I just want to state precisely what I think my claim was, which is that I don't believe in substantially superhuman persuasion, which isn't to say that, in jobs that require persuasion, AI can't be used. It's just more that I don't think there's this super level of you talk to the AI and it convences you to go jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, which is an extreme, but
to make the science fiction reference in Snow Crash, it's posited that there's a secret I don't know, what would you call it? Compiler level language for the human brain, that if you can speak in that, you can just control people. Similarly, in the seventh function of language, there's this idea of a function of language that is just so powerful, you can declare something and it happens, right?
Yeah.
That's the magic.
So,
that's the magic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, productivity is not that many steps away from persuasion about willingness to pay or willingness to supply. And it does seem like the persuasion aspects of generative AI should kind of be talked about more. And I wanted to bring up this ABC conjecture in passing, because I think that there's a belief that of all the things where there's that's very kind of cut and dry, and where kind of there's no real room for persuasion because something is just either true or not. And like maybe it would be math. And this story that has come up over the past 10 years about the ABC conjecture, which is this conjecture and number theory that I think came about in the 1980s or so, kind of illustrates this. So there's this Japanese professor of math who studied at Princeton and has all of the kind of credentials to have solved like a major conjecture in number theory. He puts forth this like 500-page attempted solution or claimed proof of the ABC conjecture. He's like a credible person, and he claims that this is the proof. But unfortunately, his proof is so poorly written and or densely written, and so technical and so badly explained, and yet still you have to work through 500 or so pages of this that no one else has been able to follow the proof.
Or even put it in like a formal proof checker, right? If they
I think they're like way away from that. Yes,
right,
yeah, right. So I think that this story is interesting because it highlights that, even in something like math, it's ultimately kind of a social enterprise where you have to try to convince other human beings that you have come up with something that has some value. And a very interesting other, so they're very,
Wait, people aren't born with values? Wait, even I feel like without a marketing company, I would still want to drink water, right?
That's actually not true. Isn't there that whole movement to drink more water? That's actually a thing.
That's from within. That's nature.
Right. Yeah. So this dude needs a marketing department.
It's a little bit too much to say that all values are inculcated in us by marketing professors. I have some of my own values, thank you.
That's true, although you may have been persuaded just by your parents or your rabbi or whoever. But whatever. So let's get to maybe a more narrow kind of objection. So as part of the motivation for this Cheap Talk paper, we ran some surveys to try to get a sense of what people do with AI. And so one of the first questions was, think of the recent time that you've used generative AI or one of the LLMs. Were you developing something that you were eventually going to share with other people? So, I don't know what your prior is, but it was something like, 85, 90% was using this to want something that I would share directly or indirectly with other people. Yes.
Oh, damn. I'm at like 95% of my usage is looking stuff up for me.
Okay, but maybe that's actually looking at it, thinking like, why were you looking it up? And ultimately, were you going to share this as part of a paper or a podcast conversation or something like this? Like maybe it actually
only insofar as the Quinean epistemic web of everything in the universe is connected to everything else. So yeah, if I learn about tree care, it could help me write an economics paper, I guess.
Well, everything is signaling according to Robin Hanson, right? So,
Sure.
Yeah. I'm signaling I'm a good economist by planting this tree.
No, I think it's fair that if this was not your intent, even like 2 or 3 steps away, then you shouldn't say yes in the survey. But anyway, okay. So big majority of people say yes. Okay, then the next question, for the people who were using it to something that would be shared, were you using the GAI to try to improve the audience that you're going to share this with, to improve their impression of you? Okay, so come up with your prior. So this is another 80, 85 kind of this sort of.
So people are using 15% of people use generative AI to make other people feel worse about them.
Well, or it's they. I assume these people would say that they weren't trying to make them feel worse. They were just not trying to sort of propaganda the person.
And to be clear, these are prolific participants, so they're trying to just make sure
stay in the prolific pool. That's their one mission in life.
Make sure that their prolific researchers don't kick them out of their sample.
Oh, is that why they're using generative AI? I mean, I don't know. Well, so like most people who I tell these results to, they're like, well, yes, of course. Like, I use GAI a ton of time to help with writing, to rewrite emails, to explain something in a way that sounds a little bit nicer or a little bit smarter or something like this. And it does seem like a very kind of dominant use of GAI. I mean, arguably the number one use is to try to change other people's impressions of you. Yeah, I mean, if this is the case, then I think the fact that it's making it easier to impress people all at once, I think this is like a super interesting part of the effects of it. And that, I know Andre has offered his caveat about what he actually meant, but I think that would put this persuasion aspect, as more of one of the central things that people.
I guess I was referring completely. I agree that what you're saying is interesting. We don't disagree at all. It's more the claim I was talking about, where people, mostly in the Bay Area, who think that super persuasive AI is going to take over the world.
Yeah. That will just turn people into lemmings. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, fine. I won't take any more cheap shots at you.
Yeah. I just wanted to be clear. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if I think the numbers are that high. I think.
Well, actually, you know
looking
what?
at the chat GPT,
bring up the Anthropic AI. Let's Anthropic AI index.
Well, I was gonna do the chat GPT usage paper, but you do the Anthropic one.
No, I did look a little around on that. Of course, one of the major uses, one of the major things that the chat GPT usage paper says is writing, and they should break that.
Interestingly,
category.
this showed up in GDP Val. Is that ChatGPT seems like a little bit better at writing, and Claude seems a little bit better at coding, and it seems to show up in usage also. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they should break down writing. I guess the question that this raises is like, who is the writing for? And why aren't you writing yourself? And are you possibly trying to, signal something about yourself, by having this clear writing?
Yeah.
And but in any event, go ahead.
But I guess I truly, I do think, like Robin Hanson thinks, that a vast majority of what humans do, period, is signaling to others.
Yeah, is that your claim?
So to me, it's almost like, it's hard to even disagree with that. I don't know.
Is your claim that, or is your claim that AI is going to make it worse?
Yeah. Like, what does it do?
I don't think I'm as hardcore as Robin Hanson on everything is signaling. But like I would just claim that this should be like a more front and center thing that people think about with regards to what are the effects of the technology.
You have to tell us. Listen, if you want a budget, if you want to be an economist, you got to tell us what to study less. You can't tell us to study everything more. What are we gonna do less of?
I mean, I guess the easy thing would be to say human AI replacement, just because there's so many studies on that right now. No, but that's important too.
The productivity effects of this one deployment of a chatbot in this one company.
Oh, yes. Actually, I get, thank you. I can totally get on board with complaining about all of the level of like poorly theoretically motivated papers where they just
this is what you need to do for me, Bo. This is what you need to do for me to get me optimistic. So people are going to do what you said, and they're going to do, the setting of, does AI change signal quality in this one population in this one period of time, and then write that paper. What's the meta paper? How can we get beyond that into a more comprehensive view of what's going on? What's your vision for research in this direction? If maybe that's a good place to wrap it.
I don't know if it's that good, because it's not like I have this all.
Well, you did a great job of signaling to us your care for this topic.
I guess part of this goes back to the question about just what are general equilibrium effects overall, because I mean, if people all become more persuasive all at once, then this kind of totally destroys the kind of quality information. Another question is how much do the do the companies, the AI labs themselves, actually have an incentive to build positive covariance technology or negative covariance technology? So if part of the value of a camera is that you could like take pictures and then show people and be like, look, this is real. This is a costly signal. I can't manipulate this very easily just with a DALI subscription or something. Then, if you might actually want to keep the covariance of your technology somewhat high, because this will be one use case that people would actually want.
Only initiates into the art are allowed to use the technology, right?
Right,
You
right,
could
right.
imagine.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very interesting, broader question. I was at a dinner with a few AI folks from some labs and some nonprofits, and we were talking about, what is the responsibility of the AI labs to even, do academic research? And, we don't think that most companies, I wish they did do more research, but companies generally don't do a lot of academic research. And maybe we shouldn't be surprised if some of the labs don't do a lot of academic social science research, for sure. And so similarly, like, we don't expect the company that creates a tool to like create the solutions to all of the unintended consequences of that tool. That to me is a very strange expectation, because it seems impossible, first of all, but also like we don't expect that from any other company.
Yeah. So I definitely see what you mean. But just to put kind of a finer point on what I'm talking about, suppose that the covariance is so negative that like it's very hard to it's very hard to improve. You're just getting a lot of signal jamming to the point where now there's just less demand for writing in general. Even if there's still some demand, well, then that less demand for writing, could feed back into the underlying demand for the LLM product itself, because this was supposed to help you write better, but now no one trusts the writing, and there could be something kind of financially self-defeating about having this a technology that is negative.
It would be
Negative
general
covariance.
equilibrium self-defeating. Individually,
Right.
we'd all want to defect and use
I
it.
mean,
Right.
with open source models, I don't know. It just seems very, very hypothetical.
No, yeah, we're not going to ban it. We're not going to bomb the data centers if that's what you're proposing now.
Yeah, but not even if one company tried to, I don't even know it's what that would mean specifically, but like, I think the solution would be by the market. Like, if you really care that a human wrote this, the market will create a technology where literally we verifying that the human is literally typing the thing as it's happening, right? If we really wanted that. Personally, I think that like live performance and in-person activities in general are going to rise up in economic value, because they're naturally, I do think humans care about interacting with other humans. Humans care that other humans are creating speech, art, so on, and we're going to have essentially a greater share of economic activity devoted to that.
Right. So those are the expressive functions of language. That's the phatic function of, hey, look, I'm still alive, grandma. That's the poetic function of trying to be beautiful and just enjoying the language of speech that, an LLM reader isn't going to feel that joy. And, and LLMs we don't think it can do this performative function, right? Well, that'll be interesting to see whether AIs get enough rights to be able to say, make binding contracts on our behalf. Which, as far as I know, the law is a little bit unclear on that right now.
There's going to be ubiquitous monitoring technology, and every time you say, I declare bankruptcy, it will enact.
It'll immediately get locked in. Everyone listening to each other, everyone talking to each other. If I can just share my kind of wrapping up thoughts, I come away a little not as scared as Bo about this epistemic apocalypse. He has scared me. I'm a little bit scared. But I come away thinking about that there's it's fundamentally kind of partial equilibrium to say, hey, look, we used to send signals this way. There's a new technology that comes along. Now that signal isn't coming through as well. To me, that I don't get to, therefore communication is impossible. Now I just get to, okay, what's the next evolution of the communication? Are we going to have LLM readers? Are we going to have, verified human communication? There seem to be solutions.
It's probably a little bit of an exaggeration of what I was saying to say that characterize it that way. But I did say that Andre said that persuasion wasn't important, so maybe I'm owed some exaggeration back.
All right, fair enough. I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do I want to say? What I want to say is, I would, if you want to put a gun to my head, I would say that information transmission will get better on net because of AI.
What a hot take to end this.
My hot take.
Yeah, you don't hear anyone saying that. That's fun.
Who would have thought that the greatest information technology product of all time might actually give us more useful information?
No. You're only allowed to be pessimistic, Seth. That's the rules of the game.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
Seth, do you think this is mainly because people will be able to substitute away from other things, or will?
Yeah, it's partially that. I think this is partial equilibrium. I think what you're identifying in this paper is definitely important, and I'm not saying that stuff that is only important in partial equilibrium isn't important, but it does seem like this is transitional, and that more fundamentally, LLMs help us say more and help us hear more. And so I think once the institutional details are worked out, and of course that's a lot of assuming a spherical cow, there will be better information in the long run.
There are even entrepreneurial activities that one could undertake to try to amend some of the concerns raised by this paper. Right? So it's true that we oftentimes take this very observer perspective on the world, but certainly we could also, if we think that a solution is useful, we can say something about that or do it.
Right. We will sell human verification.
Yeah.
We will verify you are a human. If you pay us $1,000, we will give you a 1-minute spot on this podcast. We will confirm you are human, and everyone listens to this podcast will know.
Well, I do agree that the paper was proof of concept in partial equilibrium, and what happens in the general equilibrium, we'll just have to figure out in future episodes of Justified Posteriors.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Bo, for
of course, it was great. Thank you guys so much for having on.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
Bo,
thank you so much.
You, everybody else, keep your posteriors justified.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.